Hi, welcome to this workshop on using mindfulness to help with worry and stress. My name's Heather Bond and I'm a school counsellor with the Exchange. And I'm also a researcher. I've been studying mindfulness and compassion, particularly self-compassion, for about the last 7 years now. And in the next 45 minutes or so, I'm hoping to give you a brief introduction to mindfulness and give you some hints and tips as to how you can use it to make your life go a bit more smoothly. Being a young person today comes with a lot of challenges, and I probably don't have to tell you about that. Your brain is changing in a way that can make emotions feel really intense. Parents or those looking after you can really struggle sometimes to understand the challenges of your life, partly because maybe they're dealing with their own struggles, or also maybe because it's hard for them to remember what it was like to be your age. Friendships can be pretty complicated in high school as you try to work out who you are and what you want from life, as well as try to fit in. And plus, you're living in the midst of a worldwide pandemic. So right now, that's just changed your life in so many ways and put so many restrictions on what you can do. Your school life has been turned upside down. And so it's normal right now to have worries and stress, and mindfulness can really help with that. I learned some stuff in high school that has been of absolutely no use to me so far in my life. For example, I learned the Latin name for a daisy, which has thus far been completely useless in terms of knowledge. And if somebody had taught me mindfulness, I would almost certainly have used that every day of my life. So I hope that there's going to be something in here that you will take away that will feel important. So I will talk more through the workshop about what mindfulness is, but perhaps it's useful to say in very simple terms right now that mindfulness is really about knowing what's on our mind and bringing a certain kind of attitude towards what's on our mind, an attitude of kindness and curiosity. And mindfulness really helps us to become more aware of and accepting of our emotional signals. So that really helps us to control our behaviour. And I could talk really all day about the benefits of mindfulness, since I've experienced so many of them for myself, and that makes me quite passionate about it. So really, in simple terms, a mindful approach is one where we realise that we can notice what's on our mind, and we can notice with curiosity and kindness. And I really wanted to let you know of a fascinating study, Dunedin study, that conducted research over a period of more than 30 years. It followed 5-year-olds right up until they were in their 30s. And what they realised is one of the greatest predictors of success in life, and they measured that in terms of health and financial success and not being in prison, those kinds of things. And children who had higher levels of self-control were way more likely to be doing well in life later on. So what does that mean for you? Well, thankfully, the good news is that self-control isn't fixed, and mindfulness can really help us to increase our self-control. So I'll talk more about mindfulness as we go through, and it's not just going to be me talking. There'll be a few activities for you to engage in, and yeah, hope there's something useful in here for you. So you'll notice on the left that there's a checklist that gives you a little bit of a roadmap of what we're going to be getting up to in this workshop. And I wanted to talk right at the beginning really about the kinds of worries that we have, and talk about maybe why we have so many worries. And that can help you perhaps to feel like your experience is not so different or worryingly unique from that of other people. So perhaps often when we're experiencing a lot of worry, we feel like there's something wrong with us, that maybe we're not living life very skillfully. We have these minds that are full of worry when the people around us seem to be doing fine. And actually, we all worry about stuff from time to time. So scientists reckon that we have every day somewhere between 50,000 and 70,000 thoughts. That's a lot. And some of them, if not many, are worries. Since evolution has given us a brain that can think about the past and the future and worry about what might happen in that future. And the reason that evolution has given us a brain that can do that is because really it's what's kept us alive. So in ancient times when we lived in caves, for example, then if we didn't have a mind that was focused on danger and worrying about what could happen, then we might just stroll out of the cave one morning and get eaten by that saber-toothed tiger that's outside. So looking out for threat and danger is something that our minds are very good at, and probably too good for our happiness anyway. We've evolved to stay alive rather than to thrive. So we have to work a little bit at training our minds towards the positive, so that we can kind of balance things out a bit more. So this ability to notice our thoughts, to see what's going on in the mind, can help us to see patterns, can help us to see unhelpful stuff that's going on. And I wanted to introduce you to the idea of thought snowballs. So you can see, if you recognize this idea, that a small first thought is almost like a snowball rolling down the hill. It kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's something that almost could crush us. And so let me give an example. Here's my hill, and the first thought is, so you're sitting taking a test, and a little thought pops into your mind, this test is hard. The next thought is, what if I fail it? The next is, and then what if I keep failing tests in this subject? I might not get a job that I like if I fail this subject. My future is going to involve working in a job that I hate. I'm going to be miserable. Who's going to be around me? Who's going to want to be around me, rather, if I am miserable? And the worst, the crushing thought is, I'll be all alone. So I don't know if you recognise that idea, and I've kind of condensed it a little bit. There might be some other thoughts in between those snowballs along the way, but you perhaps get the idea that a small thought, if it's kind of left alone rolling down the hill, can be really problematic. Because a thought like, this test is hard, I could think that, and I could notice a little bit of a knot in my stomach, but I'm kind of okay. A thought like, I'll be all alone, oh, don't feel okay at all. That I can feel my chest feeling tight, my breathing feels different, my stomach's really kind of tight and contracted, my shoulders are tense, my jaw is tense. So these different thoughts, they all have different effects on the body, and some are a lot more problematic than others. So if we leave a snowball to roll down the hill, a thought snowball, it will be a lot more problematic as it goes along. So mindfulness really helps us to notice when it's kind of right near the top of the hill. There's a thought that this test is hard and I might fail this test and I might fail others. And that's really as far as it's going to go. So I'm going to take my attention to my breathing, and I'm going to steady myself, and I don't need to think about me being all alone. So I mentioned steadying ourselves and using the breath, and maybe it's a good idea if I show you how to do that. So in a moment I'll lead you in a short breathing exercise, but before I do that, maybe just taking a moment to notice, as you take in this slide and you look at the image of the ocean and the sky above it, just noticing if there's any slight shift in how you feel. Because what we pay attention to has a huge effect on our mood and well-being. For example, I'm wondering if you notice a little bit more tension in your body if you're, for example, scrolling through social media and you come across some posts where people are being really mean to each other. Perhaps when that happens, your shoulders might tighten a little bit, or maybe you notice slightly sicky feeling in your stomach. And if so, that's your body's way of alerting you to the fact that there's something it wants you to pay attention to. And noticing that discomfort gives us a choice, because we can keep scrolling or we can do something different. And as I said earlier, mindfulness involves working with our attention. That's the technique of it, and also working with our attitude, seeing if we can allow our inner experience to be just as it is rather than fighting with it. And in this really short activity, I'm going to show you how you can use your breath to bring some calm to your experience. So, getting comfy as you can, maybe having a little shuggle of your body, and just watching the waves as they roll in and roll out. Perhaps deepening your breathing just a little bit, maybe just for 2 or 3 breaths. And then just allowing your breathing to settle in whatever rhythm that it wants to. After all, you've been breathing very successfully for quite a number of years without having to do anything in particular to think about controlling it. So a few deeper breaths and then allowing the breath to flow. And just inviting your body to soften a little bit more as you watch the waves. And inviting your body to let go of any unnecessary stress or tension that it's been holding on to. Almost like on each out breath, you invite your body to let go of worries just a little bit more. And on the in breath, you might imagine breathing in calm. And then on the out breath, imagining breathing out worries. Breathing in calm. And breathing out worries. If you find that you're a bit fidgety, as you breathe in and out, it might be helpful to just move your hands maybe an inch or so forwards as you breathe in, and then an inch or so backwards as you breathe out. Perhaps your hands are resting against your lap. And the sensations of physical touch can just really help to bring us more in the present moment and less lost in our worries. So breathing in, calm, and breathing out worries. So as I said on the previous slide, what we pay attention to has a huge impact on how we feel. But I'll go a step further here and say that the way we look at things changes everything. The attitude with which we use our attention has an even more powerful effect on how we feel than what we are paying attention to. So in this slide, you can see a very harsh light being shone. It's a bit like the harsh overhead lights that we might find in a school. And I'm going to suggest that you might want to warm that light up. That if we look at our experience with this warm light of attention, and also look at the experiencer, the part of us that's having the experience with this warm light of attention, then this changes everything. And I've got a reverse poem in a moment that really demonstrates that, because I know that this is a strange idea to get your head round. So think warm. Think warm attention like you might give to a puppy or a kitten instead of that harsh light of attention. So a harsh light is very critical and a warm light is kind of kind and loving. So here is a reverse poem by Chani Gorkin that really illustrates how the way in which we look changes everything. So the poem is called Worst Day Ever, and I'll read it to you if you want, so you can let your brain have a little rest and just let the words sink in. It's called Worst Day Ever, and she says, "Today was the absolute worst day ever. And don't try to convince me that there's something good in every day, because when you take a closer look, this world is a pretty evil place. Even if some goodness does shine through once in a while, satisfaction and happiness don't last. And it's not true that it's all in the mind and heart, because true happiness can be attained only if one's surroundings are good. It's not true that good exists. I'm sure you can agree that the reality creates my attitude. It's all beyond my control. And you'll never in a million years hear me say, today was a very good day." So just noticing how you feel after that. And then she says, now read it from bottom to top, the other way, and see what I really feel about my day. Today was a very good day. And you'll never in a million years hear me say it's all beyond my control. My attitude creates the reality. I'm sure you can agree that it's not true that good exists only if one's surroundings are good. True happiness can be attained because it's all in the mind and heart. And it's not true that satisfaction and happiness don't last. Some goodness does shine through once in a while, even if this world is a pretty evil place. Because when you take a closer look, there's something good in every day. And don't try to convince me that today was the absolute worst day ever. So just noticing how you feel now and whether that's changed anything for you, that idea that how we look makes a difference. So we've learned a little bit about the power of the mind and that we can train the mind. We can train our minds to notice more what's going on, what's appearing in the mind, and we can just work with the attitude with which we're viewing our experience, and we can warm up that attitude, bringing a kind, curious, kind of allowing attitude to our inner experience. Because fighting with our thoughts and feelings just tends to magnify them rather than help them to move on when they're ready. So in this activity, shortly before we finish up, I'm going to invite you to spend some time creating your mindful hero avatar. So really the invitation is to channel your inner mindful hero, the part of you that is able to see your thoughts and feelings clearly and can decide to feed them with attention if that feels helpful, or if your thoughts aren't feeling so helpful, particularly thought snowballs, then recognizing you can choose where to place your attention. And you might choose to place your attention on your breathing for a little while, allowing your thoughts and feelings to do their own thing, whilst you're just aware of the flow of your breath, or anything else that helps connect you to the present moment. So if you have a pet, for example, stroking your pet, it's a very present moment activity because you're just there with that pet, feeling the texture of their fur or scales or whatever type of pet it is, and not lost in worries. So I'm going to suggest, if you want to, that you go to charactercreator.org if you want to use an online tool to create some kind of visual of that kind of wise and skillful part of you that can work with your mind and your experience. You might just prefer to get some pen and paper out or some colouring pencils and do it that way. And yeah, be creative. And I've given you my mindful hero avatar here, just as an example of what you can create at the website I'm suggesting. So this workshop has aimed to give you a brief introduction to mindfulness. And as a reminder, I'm defining mindfulness as really knowing what's on our mind and bringing a kind and curious and really as allowing a kind of attention as we can to our inner experience. We might be beginning to recognize that when our minds are filled with worry and we place our attention there on that worry, trying to kind of fix it, trying to sort out the content of our mind and change it somehow, then it's almost like we're feeding our worries with more attention. So if we notice there's some unhelpful thinking going on, we can recognize that and we can then choose to place our attention elsewhere. So a mind lost in worry is a mind that's really in the future. We can bring our attention back to the present moment, back to the here and now, by noticing something in the here and now, like our breathing. And it's my real hope that there's been something in this workshop that you have found helpful. If you want to go on and develop your mindfulness more and really embed that as something more in your life, then there's an app called the MBLC-YA app. That stands for Mindfulness-Based Living for Young Adults. It's an app that's filled with mindfulness practices that are guided by me. And there's lots of different practices in there that might suit you for different times in your day. For example, if you struggle to get to sleep, a lot of people like to use the body scan practice before they fall asleep. If it's a case of wanting to have a clearer mind, a calmer mind before studying, then often people find the settling the mind practice really useful. So I just want to kind of reiterate or say again that everyone feels worried at times, and this workshop is focused on worry that's being experienced to a kind of mild or moderate amount. That means worry that's causing you some distress, but not to the point that it's making it hard to get through your day or function well. If you do feel that your worries are affecting your ability to function well and lead a normal life, then please try to let an adult in your life know if you can, whether that's a parent or a carer or a teacher or some other family member. Talking about what's going on for us is probably one of the best ways to change things. If your worries are overwhelming, then you might want to consider counselling. You could ask a teacher at your school to put a referral in for you if your school has counselling available. And what counselling gives you is a safe space to talk about what's going on for you, where you'll be listened to carefully and respected, and where you can feel supported in making the changes that you want to make in your life, changes that feel right for you.